Max stepped onto the wooden porch carrying 2 glasses of red wine and handed one to Natalie, who sat watching the sunset. The evening was warm, with jasmine scent drifting from their garden. "Long day, huh?" Max said, settling beside her. "Exhausting, but beautiful," Natalie replied, sighing. The couple at the wedding was so in love, they couldn't stop looking at each other. Max smiled. "Sounds like us 5 years ago." "Yeah," she said softly, but something distant lingered in her voice. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky deepen. This was their ritual after stressful days. "I talked to an old friend today," Natalie said suddenly. "Adam Thompson. We dated in college." Max felt a small flutter of curiosity. "I don't think you've mentioned him." "He's married now, in Seattle, with 2 kids," she said, gripping her glass tighter. "Talking to him brought back memories, the kind you forget until something triggers them." "What kind of memories?" Max asked. She was quiet, choosing her words carefully. "When we were together, I used to dream about our future, kids, everything. I even imagined what our children would look like." Max felt his stomach tighten. "That's normal in relationships, right?" "I suppose," Natalie said, distant. "But I had this recurring dream about holding our baby, a little boy with his smile. I felt complete, like that was where I belonged." The words hung heavy between them. Tense silence. Max felt punched in the gut. "You dreamed about having a child with him?" Max repeated slowly, trying to process. "Before us, Max," Natalie said quickly, defensive. "Years before I met you, when I thought Adam was my forever person." But Max barely heard her. Shocked. Questions flooded his mind. Was he just a replacement? Had she settled? "Why tell me this now?" he asked coldly. Natalie looked hurt. "Talking to him made me realize I never processed those feelings. I buried them. I thought I should be honest about my past." "Honest?" Max stood abruptly, angry. "We've been married 2 years and you're just now telling me you dreamed about another man's child?" "It wasn't like that," she protested, crying. "Max, please, I was trying to be open." But Max couldn't hear her. Betrayed. Every conversation about their future now felt tainted. Had she been comparing him to Adam all along? Max didn't sleep that night, restless. He lay beside Natalie, staring at the ceiling while she slept fitfully, occasionally whispering his name, worried. His mind kept replaying her words over and over like a broken record. By morning, he had made a decision, determined. He needed space to think clearly, away from her presence. "I'm taking a few days off work," he announced at breakfast, not meeting her eyes. "Going to stay at Jake's place." Natalie's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips, shocked. "Max, please don't do this. We need to talk through this together." "I can't think straight around you right now," he said, grabbing his keys, cold. "I just need time." He walked out, leaving Natalie standing in their kitchen, crying, her hands trembling as the door clicked shut behind him. At Jake's apartment, his best friend listened patiently as Max poured out everything, angry. "Can you believe it, Jake? 5 years together and I'm just finding out she had these deep feelings for someone else?" Jake handed him a beer, thoughtful. "Man, I hear you. But didn't she say this was before you? Before she even knew you existed?" "That's not the point," Max snapped, frustrated. "The point is she dreamed about building a life with him, having his children. She never told me any of this." "Maybe because it didn't matter anymore," Jake suggested carefully. "People have pasts, Max. We all do." But Max shook his head, stubborn. "This feels different, Jake. When we talk about having kids now, how do I know she's not thinking about what could have been with Adam?" Meanwhile, Natalie sat alone in their home, devastated, scrolling through old photos of her and Max, their wedding day, their first vacation together, the day they bought their house. Everything felt like it was crumbling. She called her sister Emma, desperate.
I messed up, Emma. I told Max about Adam and now he's gone. Why would you tell him that? Emma asked, confused. What possessed you to bring up an ex-boyfriend? I don't know, Natalie sobbed, regretful. Adam and I talked and it stirred up old memories. I thought being honest was the right thing. I never meant to hurt Max. Honesty without wisdom is just cruelty, Nat, Emma said gently, concerned. You dumped your unprocessed past on him without thinking about how it would make him feel. Natalie realized her sister was right, guilty. She had been so focused on her own need to confess that she hadn't considered Max's perspective. She had made it about her feelings, her past, her need for honesty, without thinking about the damage it would cause. 3 days passed with no word from Max. Anxious, Natalie threw herself into work, photographing families and couples, while her own relationship hung by a thread. The irony wasn't lost on her. On the 4th day, Max finally called, nervous. Can we talk? I'm coming home tonight. Natalie's heart leapt, hopeful. Yes, please, Max. I've been waiting. That evening, Max walked through the door looking exhausted, tired. He sat across from Natalie at their dining table, the space between them feeling like an ocean. I've been thinking a lot, he started, serious. About us, about what you said, about everything. Natalie nodded, listening intently. Here's what I can't get past, Max continued, pained. When you talk about dreaming of a child with Adam, it makes me wonder if I'm enough for you, if when we have kids, you'll be thinking about what they could have looked like with him instead. Max, no. Natalie reached for his hand, but he pulled away, hurt. That's not true at all. Then why tell me? He demanded, frustrated. Why burden me with that information if it meant nothing? What purpose did it serve except to make me doubt everything? Natalie felt tears streaming down her face, crying. I made a mistake. I thought being completely transparent was what marriage required. But Emma was right. I was being selfish. I dumped my emotional baggage on you without considering your feelings.
Max looked at Natalie with exhausted eyes. I appreciate you admitting that, but it doesn't erase what you said. I keep imagining you with him, building the life you dreamed about. Those dreams died years ago, Max, Natalie said firmly. Adam and I ended badly. He cheated on me with his lab partner. That's why I never mentioned him, because he meant nothing after what he did. Max's eyes widened. He cheated on you? Yes, Natalie nodded, bitter. All those dreams I had shattered in one night when I caught them together. I was devastated for months. That's when I moved to the city to start over. Max sat back, processing this new information. Why didn't you tell me this part when you brought him up? Because I was stupid, Natalie admitted regretfully. I only focused on the good memories, the dreams, without remembering why they ended. I romanticized the past without acknowledging the reality. Max rubbed his face with both hands. I don't know what to do with all this, Natalie. Part of me wants to forgive and move on, but another part can't stop feeling betrayed. What can I do to fix this? Natalie asked, pleading. Tell me, Max, I'll do anything. I need you to cut contact with Adam completely, Max said, looking directly at her, serious. No more video calls, no social media, nothing. Can you do that? Yes, absolutely, agreed Natalie immediately, determined. I already blocked him after you left. I realized talking to him was a mistake from the start. Max felt slight relief hearing this. Cautious. I also think we need couples counseling. We can't work through this alone. Natalie nodded eagerly, hopeful. I'll find someone tomorrow. I promise, Max. I want to save our marriage. For the first time in days, Max felt a tiny spark of hope, softening. Maybe they could get through this after all. The next week, they sat in Dr. Sarah Mitchell's office, a warm space filled with plants and soft lighting. Nervous. Both fidgeted in their seats. So, tell me, what brings you here? Dr. Mitchell asked gently, professional. Max and Natalie took turns explaining the situation. Dr. Mitchell listened without judgment, taking notes occasionally. Natalie, I want to ask you something.
Dr. Mitchell said, direct. When you told Max about your dreams with Adam, what were you hoping would happen? Natalie thought carefully, reflective. I think I wanted validation that my past was okay, that I could share everything with my husband without consequences. And did you consider how Max might receive this information? Dr. Mitchell pressed. No, Natalie admitted quietly. I was selfish. I made it about my need to confess, rather than our relationship. Dr. Mitchell turned to Max, attentive. Max, you feel betrayed by this revelation. Why do you think that is? Because it makes me question if I'm truly the man she wants, Max said, or if I'm just the consolation prize after Adam didn't work out. That's a valid feeling, Dr. Mitchell acknowledged, understanding. But I want you both to consider something. Every person brings their past into a relationship. The question is whether we let that past define our present. She looked at both of them, wise. Natalie, your mistake wasn't having those dreams in the past. It was how you shared them without context or consideration. Max, your challenge is deciding whether you can accept that Natalie had a life before you and still choose you completely now. The session continued with both sharing deeper feelings, emotional. By the end, they felt raw but slightly more connected. Over the following weeks, they attended sessions regularly, committed. Slowly, Max began to understand that Natalie's past didn't diminish her love for him, and Natalie learned that honesty required wisdom and timing.
2 months after their first counseling session, Max and Natalie sat on their porch again. The same spot where everything had unraveled now felt like a place where healing might begin. I've been thinking about what Dr. Mitchell said, Max started, about how everyone brings their past into relationships. Natalie looked at him hopefully. I realized I have my own stuff I never told you about, Max continued. Honest. My ex-girlfriend, Rebecca. I proposed to her right after college. Natalie's eyes widened, shocked. You were engaged before? She said no, Max admitted, vulnerable. She told me I was too focused on my career, that I'd never make time for a family. It destroyed me for 2 years. Max, Natalie breathed, sympathetic. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because it hurt too much, he said, pained. Because I was ashamed that someone rejected my love. And honestly, because I didn't think it mattered since I chose you. Natalie reached for his hand, and this time, he didn't pull away. Connecting. I understand now. I really do. The point is, Max continued, sincere. I've been a hypocrite. I judged you for having a past when I kept my own locked away. We both made mistakes. They sat in silence, holding hands, peaceful. The weight between them finally beginning to lift. I want to start over, Natalie said, softly, hopeful. Not erase what happened, but learn from it and build something stronger. Max nodded, agreeing. Me too. But we need to promise complete honesty from now on. No more buried secrets, no matter how painful. I promise, Natalie said. Earnest. Complete transparency. They spent the evening talking about their pasts more openly than ever before. Opening up. Max shared his fears about not being good enough, and Natalie admitted her tendency to romanticize what she'd lost. Both realized they had work to do, individually and together. The next day, Natalie surprised Max at his office, excited. I have something to show you. She pulled out her laptop and opened a folder labeled Our Future, proud. Inside were dozens of photos she'd taken over the past months of families, children, and couples. I've been documenting real love, Max, she explained, emotional. Not fantasies or dreams, but actual, messy, beautiful, real relationships. And you know what I realized? What? Max asked, leaning closer. Every single one of these families has a past full of mistakes, heartbreaks, and baggage, she said, enlightened. But they chose each other anyway. They built futures despite their histories. That's what I want with you. Max felt his eyes well up, moved. That's what I want too. He pulled her close and kissed her, passionate. For the first time since that fateful evening on the porch, Max felt truly connected to his wife again. Over dinner that night, they made plans for their future, planning. They discussed starting a family,
seriously this time, without the shadow of doubt hanging over them. "When we have kids," Max said carefully, "brave. They'll have your green eyes and my terrible sense of humor." Natalie laughed, joyful, "And hopefully your intelligence and my creativity." "They'll be ours," Max emphasized, firm. "Not anyone else's, just ours." "Just ours," Natalie echoed, content. But that night, as Natalie slept, Max lay awake again, troubled. A new worry had crept into his mind. What if Adam reached out to Natalie again? What if he wanted her back? Would she be strong enough to resist? He hated himself for still doubting, guilty, but the insecurity lingered like a ghost. The next morning, Max made a decision, determined. He needed to confront his fears directly. "Natalie, I need to ask you something over breakfast. Serious." "Anything," she replied, setting down her coffee. "If Adam showed up tomorrow and said he made a mistake, that he wanted you back," Max paused, vulnerable. "What would you do?" Natalie didn't hesitate, firm. "I'd tell him I'm married to the love of my life and slam the door in his face." "You promise?" Max pressed, needing reassurance. "Max, look at me," Natalie said, taking his face in her hands, intense. "Adam was a boy. You are a man. Adam was a dream. You are my reality. I choose you every single day." Max felt something break inside him, releasing. The last wall around his heart crumbled, and he finally truly believed her.
6 months had passed since that difficult evening on the porch. Max and Natalie had worked hard in therapy, individually and together, to rebuild their foundation of trust. They learned important lessons about communication, timing, and the weight of words. Natalie understood that honesty without empathy was just selfishness dressed up as virtue, and Max learned that holding on to past pain only poisoned the present. One Saturday morning, Natalie woke up feeling nauseous. She rushed to the bathroom, and Max followed, concerned. "Are you okay?" he asked, rubbing her back. "I think so," she said weakly, uncertain. "Maybe something I ate." But when the nausea continued for 3 days, Natalie took a pregnancy test. Her hands trembled as she waited for the results. 2 pink lines appeared. "Max?" she called out, her voice shaking. "Max, come here." He rushed into the bathroom and saw the test in her hands. Stunned. "Are we?" "We're having a baby," Natalie confirmed, tears streaming down her face. Max swept her into his arms, spinning her around. "We're having a baby." They stood in their bathroom holding each other, overwhelmed. All the pain and doubt of the past months melted away, replaced by pure joy and hope. At their first ultrasound appointment, they held hands tightly, excited. The technician moved the wand across Natalie's belly, and suddenly a rapid heartbeat filled the room. Amazed. "There's your baby," the technician said, pointing to a tiny flickering spot on the screen, smiling. Max and Natalie stared transfixed. This was their child, their future, their second chance. "Perfect heartbeat, strong and healthy," the technician continued, reassuring. As they drove home, Max kept glancing at the ultrasound photo, beaming. "I can't believe we made that." "We did," Natalie said, rubbing her still flat stomach, content. "This baby is going to be so loved." That evening, they returned to their porch, the place where everything had almost fallen apart. Reflective. The sun was setting just like it had been that difficult night. "You know what's funny?" Max said, pulling Natalie close. Thoughtful. "What?" she asked. "If you hadn't told me about Adam, we might never have gone to counseling," he said, honest. "We might have kept hiding our pasts and letting resentment build. Maybe this baby wouldn't have happened because we weren't truly connected." Natalie considered this. Wise. "So my mistake became our blessing." "In a way, yes," Max agreed, grateful. "But only because we chose to work through it. We could have easily let it destroy us." "I'm glad we fought for us," Natalie said. Sincere. "Me too." Max kissed her forehead. Loving.
They sat watching the stars appear, discussing baby names, nursery colors, and their hopes for their child, planning. The future that once seemed uncertain now stretched before them, bright with possibility. "I love you, Max," Natalie said, content. "You and this baby are my greatest dreams come true." "I love you too," Max replied, peaceful, "and I finally believe that completely." Their journey had been painful but necessary. They learned that relationships aren't destroyed by having pasts, but how we handle them, that honesty requires wisdom, and that forgiveness is a choice we make daily, and that real love isn't about perfect people, but about imperfect people choosing each other again and again. What we learn from this story. Max and Natalie's journey teaches us several valuable lessons about relationships and personal growth. Natalie's mistake shows us that honesty without wisdom and empathy is selfish. She dumped her unprocessed feelings on Max without considering the emotional impact. This teaches us that before sharing difficult truths, we must ask ourselves why we're sharing them and whether our timing serves the relationship or just our own need to confess.